Welcome to episode 7 of the More Than Friends podcast. This is Steven.
And this is Joseph.
And we have a lot of stuff that we wanted to talk about because we have been super busy since finishing up the Cincinnati Comic Expo.
I feel like I have been working with this week at least, working with More Than Friends more than I have at my other jobs.
Probably because you have.
Yeah.
I know that I have. I wake up in the morning and I do something More Than Friends related.
And
then I eat breakfast.
Amazing.
And then I work more on More Than Friends.
Yeah, it's really amazing. And it's, like, after doing Cincinnati, I feel so much better about everything. I feel like this is an actual viable thing. Because, like, before, I'm like, well, this is just kind of this thing.
Because nothing really happened.
Right.
Like, we sold 3 things, and we made, like, $30.
Yeah. And now I feel so much more confident. I feel like people have more confidence in us, and this is a real thing. It's a real job. I made more money in one weekend of doing More Than Friends than I do at my other jobs in 2 weeks.
Now I just want to get to the point where this is the only thing that I have to do.
Yeah.
Because I would love for all the days that I work at GameStop to actually be days that I have off.
Right.
Like where I can just... And I know that that's not how it's going to work out. I'm still going to work on More Than Friends stuff. But I would love to just be able to relax and actually play a game. Because, like... Yesterday, I played a game for like 30 minutes. Yeah. And it was the first time that I played a game. And actually sat down and played a game in, I think, 2 weeks.
Now you know how I feel. I've had that same thing for like years. Seriously. And now when I do get to play a game, it's like... I feel like I enjoy it more. Because it's like precious, you know?
I feel like I don't enjoy it more.
You don't enjoy it more?
Yeah, because I can't... I'm used to just sitting down and just diving into a game and spending hours and hours. Because what I would do, my old way of doing things was I would play the game, but I would stay up until like 4 or 5 in the morning. And then I would go to sleep. God. But now that I'm on a different sleep schedule... I consistently wake up at 9 in the morning. Mm-hmm. I go to bed earlier, so I can't do that. All of my game time is now sleep time.
So you don't feel like you enjoy, like, you don't feel like it's more precious and that you enjoy it more? Because that's how I feel.
I feel like it's more precious, but I just can't, like, dive in. Because a lot of the games that I like to play, I really like because of the story and the characters. And I feel like it's like seeing a friend for 5 minutes instead of hanging out with the friend.
Yeah.
So I've been playing a lot more games that are less story-driven. But they aren't as fulfilling to me as a human. Yeah,
it kind of makes... When you have a weird schedule like this, it kind of makes it so that there are certain games you just can't play. Like a Witcher right now, which is a huge open-world RPG.
Which I still need to play.
Can't play that.
But it's like craving a meal, but being given a snack.
Yeah.
That's how I feel right now. But aside from free time...
What have we been doing this week?
We've been doing a lot. We've been scheduling shows.
Yeah, yesterday we spent a few hours just planning out
I think it was like 4 hours.
Yeah, planning out the first half of 2018 and the end of 2017 for a bunch of shows we want to go to.
And actually, we have 2 that we are definitely going to.
That are paid for, that we're for sure doing, yeah.
2 new ones.
So the next one we're doing is going to be the Grand Rapids Comic-Con in Grand Rapids, Michigan, which is about a 4 to 5 hour drive from here, so not too terribly far. And then the next one we have after that that's officially booked is the Lexington Comic and Toy Con, which is March... What is it? March 11th?
I'm pulling it up now. It's March 9th through 11th.
Through March 11th. Yeah. Okay, yep. And that show we actually have done before, which, funny story behind that show. The last time we did that show, which was not under our name, it was under somebody else, I feel like that was one of the more humbling experiences for us, don't you? I feel like...
It was really bad. I mean, it was good financially, and it was fine, but we had to tear down the booth on our own, and we were dehydrated.
Yeah,
we hadn't eaten food all day.
And we were on the top floor too, so not only did we have to tear down the booth, but we had to carry it down to the elevator, down the elevator, from the elevator to the truck, and the van. Remember, I drove the van into the convention center, and I whipped it around, and we were right there by the elevator. But I think
it still took forever. We weren't just the last people to finish packing up. We were the last, and it took us 5 hours after the last people packed up.
Yeah.
It was really bad.
But, and there's a bunch of other stuff that went wrong too, but I don't want to focus on the negative. But my point is that show has a lot of like, maybe not emotional ties, but like, I don't know, I just feel strongly about that show. But what I always say is that we conquered that show, and now I feel like we can do anything. That was like the most learning experience, or that was one of the best learning experiences I've had doing shows, because it was so awful. And now we're doing it again, and we're doing it as More Than Friends, and it's going to go beautifully.
It's going to go so smooth.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be as smooth as, you know, that feeling on a peach.
Yeah.
That like it's like kind of fuzzy, but it's still smooth and it's real nice.
I love peaches.
It's like a peach, or how I imagine a seal would feel.
A seal?
Yeah, like fresh out of the water, comes up, gives you a nice smooth.
I feel like a seal would be all slimy.
I don't think it'd be slimy.
I've never met a seal. Or the singer Seal.
If there were a seal named Lou, then would people call it Lucille?
Yeah. You know Seal, the singer?
No.
He sings the Batman song. in Batman Forever, you know, with Val Kilmer.
I'm not familiar.
You don't know how it's and a kiss by a rose on the wing. Who the one
I have no idea what this is.
Hold on. You don't know that song? You've never seen Batman Forever?
No.
It's real bad.
Is it as good as the album Freeze Pop Forever?
No.
Oh.
It's real bad. It's a bad. But see, with the Batman, so there was the 89 Tim Burton Batman movie, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
Then Batman Returns came out in 92, which I still think is awesome. A lot of people didn't like it as much because it got too dark, whatever. So then
That's fine.
Yeah, I thought it was great. But then after, oh, and funny story about that too. Pee Wee Herman plays or not, what's his name? Paul Rubin plays Danny DeVito, the Penguin's dad in the movie. Really bizarre, really weird. But anyway, so then after the movie, people liked it, but it was like critically like, oh, it's too dark. So then they came out with Batman Forever, which was just like a McDonald's toy commercial, basically, like just so over the top, lighthearted and goofy and weird. And then after that, they made Batman and Robin, which was even more just over the top toy commercial. And Arnold Schwarzenegger is in that, and his entire dialogue in that movie is just cold puns. Have you seen that one?
I've seen a compilation of all of the puns.
Yeah, that's all his dialogue. It's just
how did we end up talking about this?
Because I started singing about the Seal song.
Yeah, but like, how did that even happen?
Talking about seals.
Oh, yeah. So I think this show's gonna go real smooth. As smooth as this podcast, at least.
Oh man,
those transitions though. But yeah, so we have those two shows for sure, 100% going to. But we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. About 14 that we are 14 more that we are planning on.
That's really exciting.
Like we're working on getting into those, and I would say that we're probably going to get into at least like
maybe
10.
10? Yeah, there's probably some of those that they're not gonna, just because we need to be more established, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Like, depending on the convention, some of them they're just like, if you're an alive person with money, they'll let you in. But other places you have to like apply, and it's a little bit more stringent, which is fine. I respect that.
But still, 14, I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, and also we are officially set to go to LA for the Video Game Awards.
We got
and
our
the
plane
PSA.
tickets.
And shout out to me for almost. No, I'm serious.
So humble.
Hey man, credit due. We almost spent double the amount of money we needed to on our plane tickets right there. That would have been really bad. Because remember, I was literally one click away from it being like almost $400, and the last thing I had to do was just confirm payment. And I said, well, let's just look on another website, and it was half the price for our plane tickets. So that was
I'm surprised, because usually it was Frontier that we started with. Usually Frontier is dirt cheap.
Yeah.
But then we checked out Allegiant, and they were
Half the price.
half the price. So what I think is with Frontier, it's better for like when you're going to a place that's on your half of the country. But when you're going across the country, Allegiant I think is better.
And also, time frames are different too. Like, I think on Allegiant they run, I don't know, I think it's like there are certain days they don't fly on, and Frontier, I think they have different promotions and different times that are more expensive than others. Like, I guess the first week of December with Frontier is always more expensive for whatever reason. I don't know why. Whereas it seems like on Allegiant, like I think I've found more deals on Allegiant than I have on Frontier, but I think Frontier flies out of more places than Allegiant does, so I think use Frontier more than Allegiant. Just flying tips for everybody out there.
Flying Tips. That sounds like a good name for a band.
Flying Tips.
Flying Tips.
I think that Flaming Lips. That's what I'm thinking of. Flaming Lips.
This is the sister band.
I don't know if they're good. Flaming Lips. I don't know.
Well, Flying Tips is pretty great.
What kind of tips here? Like tips like at a restaurant, or tips like
it's up for interpretation.
like,
actually, every album focuses on a different kind of tip.
Oh, okay.
And then their magnum opus is just the tip.
So we also, Jesus Christ. So in addition to all that, we got a lot more inventory as well. So that's kind of good. But that's kind of a lot more like technical, boring stuff. I think what the important stuff is that we are going to be doing some giveaways. And our first giveaway.
Yep. It is up right now. Actually, if you go on our Facebook page, you should be able to see the post. You can win an NES Classic. And all that you have to do, our fine listeners, is go to our Facebook page. That is facebook.com/bemorethanfriends. Like that page. And then find that post. Like that post. And share that post. And comment on that post. And then you're entered. That's all you got to do. You don't have to spend any money. You just do that. And then you're entered to win an NES Classic for free.
Yep, and we will select a random winner on Friday, October 5th. And we will contact that person, he or she.
It'll be around 12 o'clock
Yep.
Eastern Standard Time.
Yes, and then we will ship it to you.
Yep, free of charge.
Yep, and I really like that a lot. Because the NES Classic, I know a lot of people who listen may not be gamers, but this is an item that is really hard to find.
Yep.
And there's kind of this whole, like, it's almost like a meme at this point. Like, the NES, like, people were so mad about it when it came out because just stores got 2 or whatever, and everybody, and like, do you remember at work for that whole month, every day we would get like 20 calls a day? Y'all got that NES in stock? Like,
no.
Like, it's like a joke, right? So
like, can you check other stores? And we're like, they don't have it.
Yeah. So yeah,
people would sell them online for like, so it retails for $60, doesn't it?
Yep.
So it retails for $60, but online they consistently go for like more than 300, 400, 600. It's insane.
You've seen them for 600?
When, like, in that pocket of time when they were
right. Yes. Yeah. I think at this point right now, I think about double is what I've seen. I don't know.
120.
I haven't looked recently, but even still, it's 120. And even still, even if it wasn't, it would be a $60 item that you guys can possibly win for free. So I am pretty happy that we're doing that, and I think if this goes over well, we should do we should do giveaways more often.
Yep.
And maybe
I already have. There's some games that I want to give away for free.
Yeah.
That I have ready for a certain show that's coming up.
Yes, that would be good
when we get to do that.
Yeah, that would be awesome. And I think the more people who interact with us that way, the more we will be willing to do free giveaways like that. Because I think it's kind of a give and take sort of thing.
Yeah, so if you support us, we will support you. And we really like to give free things away. So
yeah, and
any chance that we get, like at Cincinnati Comic Expo, we were giving away free gifts to everyone.
And like, obviously giving free stuff is going to be good, right? People, it's implied that everybody likes that, but it went over a lot better than I thought it would. Not that I thought it would go bad, but like, people were like, "Oh my god, that's so awesome that you're like." Because I don't think anybody really does that, like automatically giving free stuff to people just for purchasing.
Well, I think that's important because basically, when you're friends with someone, you do nice things. That's a given. But we're more than friends. We don't just do nice things. We give.
Yeah.
It's a whole you scratch my back, I scratch yours kind of thing.
Yeah.
And we love back scratches.
Oh my god. Dude, I have this back scratcher. This back scratcher it's like a family heirloom kind of thing. Like it's been generations and generations. And it's
think of all of the dead skin.
Yeah, it's great. And so my grandmother passed it down to me, and this back scratcher, it's a woman. It's in the shape of a woman.
Oh,
have you seen this?
I don't think I have.
And it's weird. It's like this it's a little bit abstract in that yes, you can tell it's a figure, like it's a person, but it's a woman's hair, but her hair is coming down over where her boobs would be. But the hair is like covering her boobs. So you're like, is that hair or boobs? Can't tell. And like she doesn't have a face, and then her hands are what scratches you. Like her hands are above her head. It's really weird. Yeah, it's like yeah, she's like got her arms stretched up above her head, and it's this gorgeous piece of art. I think it's great, but as a back scratcher, it is like phenomenal, and yeah, it's probably got a lot of diseases on it and whatever. But
I don't think it has diseases.
Well,
I just think it has like skin from all of your deceased relatives.
Jesus, thank you. But just as a back scratcher, I love it because it's the perfect length. You try to use a back scratcher and it's like not
long enough.
It's not long enough.
It's too long.
Yeah, and if it's too long, then you gotta hold it weird. And what's weird about this back scratcher is, like I said, it's a little abstract. So she's got like her feet are together, like her legs. Sorry, her legs are together. So it's almost like a mermaid thing. It's really weird. And then she's got a butt, but the butt it looks like the boobs. Like it's like,
is that like the handle where you hold it with your?
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's a really weird piece. I gotta show it to you. But yeah, it's my favorite back scratcher. And so also I have this massager, and you've seen this. It's this little pink thing. It looks like something like you would get at a Target or whatever. And it's just these. It looks like 4 legs.
Oh yeah, the little like bulbous.
With the ball. Yeah. And then it's just amazing.
I love those things.
Well, what I like to do is when I'm sitting on the couch watching TV or whatever, watching a video, I'll have Raja, my cat, on my lap, and I'll take the back scratcher and just roll it on his back, and oh man, he melts. It's so I love Raja because he is like so over the top with everything. Like if I'm making food or whatever, it's like he has an out of body experience. Like I don't believe in souls or whatever, but if I did, like I could picture his soul just escaping him,
just like slowly oozing out.
Yeah,
and looking down at his little cat body.
Yeah. I love that I'm responsible for him having that experience. Like I get to do that. I'm like God to them. It's pretty great.
I would love to know how pets view their humans.
Oh my god, I think about that every day. Like I'll be sitting in bed and Moses will be like laying on my butt or something. He's weird, and he'll just be like looking at me, and I'm like, "Do you hate me, or do you love me? I can't. What do you think of me?" Or like, I live alone, so I can just walk around naked or whatever. I'm like, do you get it that I'm not like?
There was
do you think it's weird that I'm naked? Like, do you understand that?
There was a post that somebody posted on Facebook. A friend of mine, Edward. Hello, Edward.
Hello.
If you're listening. But he shared this post where there was this article and it said, if you were to die in your house and you have a dog, how long until your dog starts eating your body? And it was like this study or something.
I feel like a cat would start eating your body before a dog would.
Well, it just takes a matter of days, apparently.
Seriously?
For the dog to just decide to eat your body.
So really, they don't love you that much.
Well, I mean, I think it's a matter of different cultural norms. So, like, I just don't think that they value a person once the person stops living, which I guess makes sense. I mean,
yeah.
What do we do to a person after
we throw them in the garbage?
We shove them in a box, and we shove that box into the dirt, and then we cover it, and then we make it so that we don't have to look at them again. So like,
Jesus, this is getting dark.
So I feel like it's a similar kind of thing where they're like, okay, well, how can I make this useless body useful? Oh, well, I'll eat it.
And that's
there we go.
And that's kind of how I feel about that whole thing with humans too. Well, or at least for myself. Like a lot of people, they're like
dead bodies.
Well, hold on. They're like, oh, I want to be cremated or I want to be buried, whatever, blah blah blah. But when I die, as soon as I'm dead, take my body and just you have two options. One, throw it in like a forest or something so the critters can get me.
Mm-hmm. Or two.
And well, hold on, let me elaborate.
Oh no.
Well, I'm just saying because like I think it's kind of selfish to like if your body can because you don't need it anymore. If you can still use your body to help somebody else or help another living thing, you should. Or at least I think that.
Yeah.
So I think the critters get me in the forest.
I mean, they're gonna get you regardless if you're buried.
I know, but just make it easier on them. There's no reason to postpone if they're hungry now.
Yeah.
Or kind of the same theme. Throw me in the ocean. Let the fish eat me.
Do you want like some kind of a mark showing where it was done, or no mark at all?
No, I don't care.
Okay.
Once I'm dead, I don't care.
I mean, we know that you won't care, but like...
No, I don't care. People have all these, like, rules. I want to be wearing my favorite dress, and I want my makeup... Like, you're fucking dead. Why do you fucking care?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think people, when we're alive, we don't like to think about things just ending. So...
Yeah.
So when we think about death, we kind of glorify it a little bit, and we're like, oh, I'm still going to be living on and I'm gonna have this legacy, but I mean, we have no evidence to suggest that we do anything after death. Like, so to me it's almost like turning a light off.
Yep.
The light is no longer there, it's no longer bouncing off of things there. It's a dead bulb.
Take it, like, you know how the garbage comes on Tuesdays and the garbage man comes and gets out of the truck and takes the garbage can and puts it in the thing and dumps it in there and then crushes it and then moves on to the next house. Throw my body in the garbage can with the thing. Like, I'm garbage at that point. I feel like I'm taking up space.
I feel like it'd be more useful to just put it in the woods.
Well,
I like that.
Yeah, I think that's a more like nature-y, more one with the earth kind of thing. But
I can get down with that.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think you should help other people. If you don't need help, you're dead. What are you doing?
Well, on the same note, though, I think that a lot of times the burial process or the funeral process or the cremation process, whatever people do with remains, I think that it's less for the person that's dead and more for the people who are grieving. It's therapy for them. It's a grieving process.
That's fine. That's great. But I also think it's a business.
I mean, yeah.
So I don't really like that part. Like, it's like you go to the funeral and they're like, "Oh, we're so sorry. He would have loved to have a $6,000 casket. We should get the $6,000. Don't you think that would be?" "Yeah, I think we'll do that." "Okay, come right this way. Hey, ma'am, why don't we get him dressed up in the most pristine tuxedo you can? Because he would want to look the best. So you guys, like, you know, like, it's just like." They act like they give a shit, but they really just want your money. And then, "Oh, we're so sorry." No, you're not. You're happy. You want more. You just keep. People need to keep dying, so you keep making a business there. So,
Jesus. Well, I mean, people aren't going to stop dying.
Speaking of dying, we recently watched the movie It. Not together, but we watched it separately, and I think we both liked it, right?
Yeah, it was a lot better than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
I didn't really have many expectations.
Well. So you had no expectations going in?
Well, I mean, I expected it to be kind of scary.
Mm-hmm. That's basically it?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah. So I watched the original miniseries, and it's terrible.
I haven't seen it in I don't think I've seen the full thing.
It's like 5 hours long or 6 hours. I can't remember.
And it's not good at all. You don't like it?
When I watched it, I was like pissed off the whole time. I'm like, this isn't scary. Tim Curry's funny. He's like, I don't get why they're scared. And then at the end, he turns into a big freaking spider. It doesn't make any goddamn sense. It's like, the spider is like not scared. Like, it's just like you sit through this 5 hour thing, and then he's just a big freaking spider at the end. I don't know. And it's too long. Like, I feel like they had to make some changes from the book because it was on TV. I never read the book. Yeah, but anything that's like. And kind of with the, watching a series thing, anything that's longer than like an hour and a half, I feel like it's like, it has to be really good for me to watch this.
Yeah, same here.
And after I watched the whole thing, and I'm just like, oh Jesus, this fucking spider thing. So going into the remake, I had pretty low expectations. there's a couple people who I knew that were vouching for it, and they're saying, hey, it's pretty good. And I was like, all right, whatever.
Yeah, I was seeing a lot of people saying that it was really good on Facebook, but people say that everything.
Yeah, people. Good. Yeah, exactly.
So sometimes I'm just like, is it really good?
Is it really good? Yeah. So yeah, but I think I really like the imagery in it. Like there are certain things that stand out to me. The story is about fear, and there are characters in the movie who all have their own things that they're afraid of, and those things that they're afraid of stand out to me, like the imagery of that, and I really like that. Like
they're represented in the many encounters with it.
Yeah,
whatever it may be.
It may be. Yeah, and I realize that with games and actually a lot of media, if there's something that like if there's imagery that stands out to me, I tend to connect with it more. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what the psychology is behind that, but
just that it's an interesting new thing. I think.
Right.
But yeah, I'm the same way. Like, especially if something has a unique art style, then I'll be drawn to that more.
Yeah.
Like especially with games, or I guess with movies too, to an extent, more with like the general tone or the theme. Mm-hmm. I don't necessarily adhere to realism as much as like when something is surreal or a little bit more abstract.
What's interesting, my uncle, he won't watch a movie unless it's realistic, and I was talking to him about that. I'm like, why is that? That's really weird. And he's like, well, I don't know. I don't connect with it. I can't relate with it. And I'm like, I understand that, but when I watch a movie, the whole reason I'm enjoying it is because it isn't realistic. Like, that's why I find it interesting. I deal with realistic stuff all day. I mean, that's what life is. Mm-hmm. So going into a movie, it's kind of a way to escape that. And it's really weird that he won't watch a movie unless it's like he only watches like, you know, action movies that are grounded in reality, like, you know, those like Jason Bourne kind of like that kind of stuff.
Very realistic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but like he would never watch like an It or I don't know, like any Star Wars or anything like that, like, because it's not realistic. And I'm just like, oh, you're missing out on a bunch of really good movies.
Well, see, usually I relate to the more abstract things more, because like I see things like symbolism and metaphors and surrealism and the use of imagery as exaggerated emotion. Mm-hmm. And if you peel them away and inspect the things, then you get down to like the root emotion, and it's easier to see when something is exaggerated.
Right, yeah.
So it's kind of like holding a magnifying glass. It distorts the image a bit because you're seeing it so up close, but you can't escape whatever that emotion is. Yeah. And that's how I feel with a lot of these kinds of things. So usually when something is kind of like blanket level emotion, something like a Hallmark Channel movie. Sorry, Mom. I know you love Hallmark movies. But like when it's kind of like a blanket level of emotion where it's just like it's there, but usually it's not extrapolated. Is that extrapolated? In a very like weird way. Then I'm kind of like, oh, that's fine, because the way that I feel emotions is a very what's the word, guttural. Yeah. It's very like, it's there and it feels so much heavier, or it feels so much lighter, or it feels so much more than just the thing.
Yeah, and tying it back to it, the theme of fear, I think, is really important, and it's something that a lot of people are uncomfortable with. But I like that the movie addresses that, and I like that the movie makes it a point to show that everybody has their own things that they're afraid of, and
that you can overcome them.
And well, yeah, that too. But I like seeing it from their point of view, like, and especially the Jewish kid. He's afraid of that painting, and I've had that before. Like literally, like that same thing. There are works of art that I find terrifying. Like, I'm gonna share an embarrassing one here. The beginning of Beauty and the Beast. You know, when they show the like whole Prince thing. I don't know if you remember. Like, I don't know how recently you've watched it, but
like, isn't it like a stained glass kind of style?
Yeah, like that. There's a painting of, I think it's the Prince, and that painting just creeps me out. Don't like that painting at all. So I feel like if that painting existed in real life and I walked by it like the kid in the movie, that would be my fear at that time.
Well, I like how specifically the movie is kind of like through a child's eyes exploring fear, because children naturally, their imagination's kind of stretch things.
Yeah.
And that's something that I mean, maybe we never grow out of it, and just kids are more expressive of it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's something that I can definitely relate to.
Yeah.
And like even here at my apartment, I'll just be laying in bed and I'll swear that I'll see like some kind of weird creature just staring at me through the window.
Do you remember when we pulled up outside and?
Yeah, we drove up to my apartment, and so I do this thing where if something bad happens and it's not that bad, I'll just pretend it's a big deal.
You'll just be like, oh my god, no, oh my god!
I'll just start screaming, just because like then it kind of pokes fun at the fact that something is going wrong, but it's not.
And then when you see what actually happened, you're like, oh,
yeah,
you dropped your pencil.
Yeah, but when there's something actually wrong, I'm usually very quiet.
Yeah.
Or like if I'm actually in a lot of pain, I'll just stop and I'll just try to I enter like this weird kind of Zen mode. I don't know why I do that.
Yeah.
But it's like this weird Zen mode. Like if I'm riding a roller coaster and I'm terrified, I'll just sit there in silence, eyes wide, just staring ahead, and I'm just wait for whatever happens.
So what happened with the thing?
So we pulled up to my apartment and it was nighttime. Turned off the car, and then I look out of my car. I see this thing, and it looks like this rectangular demon. And it like I swear it didn't have like eyes.
Yeah,
they were like angular eyes.
Yeah,
and it looked kind of like those Minecraft creepers, but if it were black and it just had like this demonic presence.
And I love you're just like, is that a demon?
After a moment of silence,
and then
I'm staring at this thing for like probably a minute, and then I'm like, is that a demon?
And then I look up and I'm like, yeah. Yeah, I think it is. And what it actually was a garbage can for dog do.
Yeah, it was one of those dispensers for the little doggy bags for picking up poop and then throwing it away in the receptacle.
AKA demon. So now every time we drive by, we're like, hey, look, there's the demon, and it's just a trash can. But anyway, like that whole, the essence of that, like, that is childhood. Like, kids, like, thinking they hear something, or like, you know, that the sink may be weird or whatever and make a weird noise, and they're like, oh, guess there's a monster in the house who's trying to kill me. Mm-hmm. Like, I really like that a lot. So, with that movie, I like that it I like that it addresses fear. I like that it addresses that you can conquer it, and if you do conquer it, you will be successful.
It was a lot more intense than I thought it would be, too.
Yeah, some of those scenes were really brutal.
Like, there were some uncanny valley moments, and there was a lot of just, like, accepting vulnerability, and there were some moments that were just very uncomfortable as a viewer.
Yeah.
Like, sexually uncomfortable, and I was just like, oh, I did not expect that to be going down this route. And the fact that there's children involved, it's just like, oh.
Yeah.
So I think the movie would not work if they weren't kids, and so I'm curious how the next one's going to be, because they'll be adults.
I don't think they'll be adults yet, will they?
Should be.
Oh, it takes place... Oh, are you thinking it takes place 27 years later?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good point. I wasn't thinking that, though. I was thinking it's going to be, like, right after. But, yeah, you're probably right. Yeah, you're probably right.
So I wonder if that's even going to work.
It's probably just going to be their kids.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But also, it could be, like, dealing with the same fears and how those stick with you into adult life. Maybe that would be an interesting take. But still, like, I think a lot of the discomfort as a viewer came from the fact that these were children's lives in danger, as opposed to adults. Because adults, they die all the time.
Nobody gives a shit about adults, yeah.
But like, it's not as big of a deal when an adult dies on the news as opposed to when a kid dies, or even if a kid just goes missing.
Yeah, like if you're eating dinner, watching the news, and they say, "Oh, and a man was murdered," you don't look up at the TV.
You just keep eating.
But if they go, "A kid is missing," you're like, you're like, "Oh shit." What can I do?
Yeah. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And I really liked, in the first half of the movie, it was a lot more subtle, and I preferred that method, I guess. And there were a lot of little nods to things that were very concerning. So instead of all, like, the scary things, just the idea of just the missing children posters, just them being, like, just covered over with other missing children posters.
Yeah.
That was cool. I love that. The fact that none of the adults in the entire movie give a single shit.
Yeah.
I think that is the most concerning.
Yeah.
And that's something that kids deal with because they're like, oh, there's a monster under my bed. And then the parents are just like, there's not. Go to sleep.
Yeah. Quit making noise.
It's that whole kind of thing. And there's nothing scarier, to me at least, there's nothing scarier than feeling strongly about something and then just not being heard.
Right.
And like wanting desperately for people to understand your personal feelings or your personal fears or insecurities and then just not being heard, not being understood. That is terrifying. And the first half of the movie does an amazing job of highlighting that. And I think that's honestly where
shines.
Yeah, where most of the truly terrifying things are. Because like there's jump scares and there's things that are kind of eerie to look at.
I like
but the things that stick with you.
I like that the movie doesn't rely on jump scares though, because so many horror movies, it's literally just okay, it's just an hour and a half of jump scares. Like I'm tired of that. So
there were a lot of them though.
I don't remember there being that many.
There were a lot of instances. It did something really cool because usually there's a formula. When there's a jump scare, there will be an audio cue.
Right.
So like the music will go,
and then it sort of ramps up. Yeah.
And then a moment of silence.
Yeah.
And then there's like a rhythm to it.
Right.
And then it'll just come out.
But I remember I was looking out for that, and I don't really remember seeing that many.
Well, this movie, it kind of broke the trend a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
They would do the rising action for whatever the jump scare was. They would do the rising action. They would introduce something, but you would see it. You would see it right there.
So nothing would. You already knew it was going to happen.
Sort of.
Yeah.
You would see it, but then, before the terrifying thing would happen, it would go silent, dead silent, not a single sound, and it would keep the silence for an uncomfortably long amount of time. And we're just talking probably 5 or 6 seconds, but that's a long time, especially for like the running time of a movie.
Right.
And it would be dead silent, and the entire theater. This was pretty cool. The entire theater would be dead silent.
Mm-hmm.
And that made the next thing that happened so much more terrifying.
Yeah. But I remember, like, because I know the cues and the formulas for the jump scares. And I remember looking out for those, and I was pleasantly surprised that they went away from that. Because, like, that's why I don't really like horror movies, because they're just basically all the same. Like, so anytime there's a horror movie that deviates from the normal formula and the normal setup, I'm like, okay, I'll check this one out, because I like the idea of a horror movie and I like the imagery of a horror movie, and I think some of those characters are kind of cool. But when it's the tropes over and over again, where so, you know, whether it be somebody running and then they fall and then they have to get up, like that.
There was a lot of that.
That still happened a lot. But or the formulas of the jump scares, or
these kids, Jesus, they had throughout the entire movie they had one rule. And that was stick together.
Yeah.
And they sucked at following that rule.
Yeah. And that whole thing where
not once did they listen to their own rule.
Where the whole time you're like, God damn it, you kids, why are you being stupid? If you just stick together, you'll be fine. Mm-hmm. Like, I want to see a horror movie that completely goes against all of those things, but is still impactful as a horror movie. I think that would be interesting.
There was one horror movie that I really like. It's called It Follows. Have you seen it?
I started to watch it and I fell asleep. It's on Netflix.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good, and it kind of it's really good.
Okay, I'll
you should watch it.
You're usually pretty good with your recommendations.
Like, that's interesting. We're talking about the movie It, and then
it
following
It Follows.
We mentioned It Follows, but
actually, I would argue. Now I know this is stick with me. I would argue that Gummo is a horror movie. Stick with me.
I mean, I agree. I think it was intended to be a comedy.
Sure, right.
I don't think it's that either.
Yeah, but the only reason is, and this is just me personally, I'm uncomfortable that entire movie. And I think that's what a horror movie is. You're uncomfortable the entire movie. You're afraid, right? So, yeah, Gummo is one of... I think it's probably the most uncomfortable I've ever been watching a movie.
That's actually... There's some similarities between Gummo and It.
Yes.
Because it emphasizes children in bad situations.
Mm-hmm.
The only problem is with Gummo, it's probably also the most believable movie.
Right, that's
because
why
it feels like you're just in this shitty town.
Yeah.
With these
shitty people.
Well, they're all poor and uneducated and just full of hatred, and they don't understand how to express any of it, and it just feels like somebody walked in with a camera, kind of like if Trailer Park Boys were real.
Yeah.
They just walk in with a camera, and then you just witness these horrible things. And I love how it's just vignettes of these little stories from these people's lives, and then there are these little moments in between the like different scenes where it'll be like a slideshow of just images, and it'll be narrated by one of the characters, and it really puts you in their mind, and it's awful. Like some of these things, it's awful, but these kids are just talking about these awful things as if it's nothing. Like, the movie takes place in a town in Ohio,
which is pretty close to us.
Yeah, in Xenia, Ohio, I think.
Yeah.
But it's after this really bad tornado, and so that's why like everything has just gone to shit, and this whole entire group of people were just like forgotten because the government didn't care, and so they have no real schools. And they just don't have the materials. They're just basically living in filth. And the movie starts with one of the main characters. I mean, I guess all the characters are main characters in that movie. But he's talking about what it was like just walking through the wreckage after this tornado. And he talks about seeing this girl that was dead, and she was just tangled in this phone line. And he remembers that he was walking by, and he looked up at her. And instead of being scared, he was excited that he could look up her skirt.
Yeah.
And that's how the movie starts, and it's the entire movie is just that level of just uncomfortability.
Yeah.
But like just blatant honesty, but coming from children, and it has this underlying layer of filth just entirely throughout. In not just a sexual way, but also in just a literal way of filth.
Yeah.
And oh my god, it's just the most.
So I think the movie is not presented as a horror movie, but I'm horrified while watching it, right? So like that, but I'm glad you showed that movie to me, because it's set a new standard for me, where anytime I watch a movie that is presented in a way that is supposed to make me uncomfortable, I'm always like, well, it's not as bad as Gummo.
Well, I've never seen a movie that has made me feel as bad as Gummo has made me feel, because not only does it make me feel bad because of the characters and because it's just depressing, but because for every character in that movie, there's somebody in my real life that I feel is a lot like them, and that makes me feel bad. And then also, I feel bad for watching it.
Yeah.
But there's this weird thing where I, for some reason, continue to watch it. I just continue to watch it.
I think people have this weird thing where they enjoy watching bad things happening as long as it's to somebody else.
Yeah.
Like, not like you're rooting for it. Like, yes, I hope people get murdered. But, like, even, like, the whole, like, hurricane in Puerto Rico thing. People enjoy...
It's a morbid curiosity.
Yeah, they enjoy hearing about that. And I don't know what that is. Actually, there's a Tool song. I know if I can find a way to relate anything to a Tool song, I do. But there's a Tool song called Vicarious. And there's a line in the song, it's vicariously... it's basically like... you watch other people die or whatever, and at the end of the song he says, much better you than I. And I think what they're trying to say is, like, as long as there's bad stuff happening, I can still watch and have a good time, and as long as it's not me, that's awesome. So that kind of made me think of that song. And yeah, I don't know why people enjoy watching other people.
I actually think I do know.
Okay.
I was listening to a podcast actually earlier today. It was the Curiosity podcast.
Hey, that's fitting.
Yeah, and they were talking about happiness, and later on they were talking about how oftentimes our behaviors will be contrary to happiness. And there was something that the lady on there mentioned. It was like a new kind of word. She was basically a psychiatrist or a psychologist, but she studied, what is it, positive? I think it's called positive psychology, but the study of not fixing negative emotions, but the study of making people feel better. So instead of getting people from -5 to 0, getting people from 0 to +5
right.
on the scale of happiness.
Right.
But anyways, she was talking about how everybody has like evolutionarily developed a negativity bias. And that is the tendency to focus on negative information because it's considered more important. So back in the day, in the caveman times or whatever, if someone would hear a noise in a bush or something, the people who were more likely to survive were the ones who avoided the bush. And the ones that were curious or were more optimistic were the ones that tended to go towards the bush, and then they would die because there would be some kind of an animal or something.
So you're saying there's an evolutionary trait that goes with it.
So, especially now, with the way that media is designed, and news in particular, and in politics and things like that, there's an emphasis on negativity, and that's because people tend to watch those things because they feel like they're valued higher, they're more important, because if you don't know about the negative things, then it's more likely that you'll be hurt by it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what is mentally going on in a lot of people's minds, is they value negative information more because they feel like it's more applicable to everyone's day-to-day safety or security. And even if it's completely irrelevant to their personal lives.
That's what I was going to say. That's fair. You know, you find out there's a serial killer in your town, you avoid the stuff, whatever, you know, that can be useful. But to tie it to an example, I was with my grandmother, and she was watching the news, and I remember her, it was just shitty thing after shitty thing, and I remember her going, oh, this is just awful. I hate, like, she was like, I hate that this is happening, and I hate seeing all this. Yeah, that's what she said. She's like, I hate seeing this. And I'm like, well, then why do you watch the news? And then she was like, well, I have to stay informed and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but if you just don't watch any of it, then you'll be fine. Like, she's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I never watch the news, and yeah, I'm ignorant to a lot of stuff that happens, but a lot of that stuff doesn't even really relate to me, so I feel like I'm happier because of it. Like, if people are getting murdered in another country, yeah, that's shitty, and it's not that I want them to get murdered, but if the less I know about that, I feel like the better, because it's not like you can do anything.
Ignorance is bliss.
Yeah,
and so what's interesting is, yes, that happens, and yes, life is kind of easier if we can just ignore the bad things. However, there's this disconnect in our brain where we don't acknowledge that something is or isn't applicable to us. We see it and we feel it, and then that becomes our everyday life. It's kind of like perception is reality kind of thing.
Right, yeah.
And evolutionarily, like in the past, it was important that we were informed and that we knew about all of the negative things that could hurt us, and that we knew that this plant was dangerous versus this plant, and that's why these specific colors should be scary compared to these specific colors, and that's why bright colored animals and bright colored plants are generally things that make us uncomfortable. There's also, I can't remember the name for it, it's a certain phobia, but it's the fear of a specific pattern that's kind of circular. It's like irregular circles in a pattern that are kind of like rigid. It makes us uncomfortable because it resembles a lot of like infections. It's like this porous kind of thing.
That's weird.
Yeah, it's really weird, but seeing like pictures of this thing, it actually made me uncomfortable, and I didn't even think that I had that phobia, but it's just because there are these things that are just hardwired into our bodies evolutionarily that we are kind of programmed to avoid.
But do you think that's looking at it that way is still relevant? Because,
well, that's what I was going to say. However, it's not necessarily relevant to this day, because we live in a society in which we can basically, for the most part, of course there are things that affect everybody, or that affect certain groups of people more, that are unavoidable, but for the most part we have a lot more control over what our day-to-day life looks like compared to back in the day when cavemen had to live in caves and had to kill animals, or back in the day when we had to hunt for food or whatever. Like, now we live in a more comfortable society, oddly enough.
At least compared to the cavemen days.
Because we have more control over our day-to-day lives. But we still have this hardwired thing to pay attention to these things so that we can be informed, so that we can avoid things that could potentially be harmful.
Yeah.
And it is to the detriment of our happiness.
Yeah.
But sometimes it can help you too.
Well, how it works for me is I feel like a lot of people go out of their way to look for that bad news, and that's the thing I'm talking about, and that's what I don't think is useful. With me, if there is that serial killer in town that I need to avoid, whatever, I feel like I would hear about that without having to look for it. Like social media has become a source of news at this point.
It's hard to avoid things.
Right. So what I'm saying is I don't go out of my way to look for that bad news because number one, I have a limited amount of time, and why devote my time to something that's going to make me unhappy, especially something that I can't do anything about. So if there is something bad, I'll hear about it and I'll adjust accordingly. So that whole like morbid curiosity thing where people like seeing other bad things happening to other people, I think it's almost like an entertainment kind of thing.
Well, I'm the kind of person who I regularly go online and I literally, this is what I type in to YouTube or to Google. I say most disturbing blank. And I fill in the blank with a whole number of different things.
Yeah.
And then I just fall down this rabbit hole of just these god-awful videos and like most disturbing YouTube channels, most disturbing videos on the dark web.
And there's just there's like a compilation. Like
and I do this, and for some god-awful reason, I do it before I go to sleep. And I'm just laying in bed in my dark room with the weird, scary creature outside of my window staring at me.
The demon.
And I'm watching all of these horrifying things about
why do you do that to yourself?
Mysteries and things.
Ugh.
And yeah, it's not necessarily applicable to my everyday life. Yeah, it's kind of detrimental to my sleep and my health and my happiness. But I love a good mystery myself, and I love like things like conspiracy theories and mysterious, unexplainable things.
See, I like that too.
And oh my god, I just love it. That's why I like Metal Gear Solid so much.
Yeah, the mysterious, unexplainable things, I'm into that too. That's awesome. But like purposely looking at shitty things that are happening in the world right now, I just don't really think that's applicable to me.
Well, the way that I use it is it kind of makes me look at the world in a through a different lens. It's the whole perception is reality thing. But instead of just being afraid of everything, I look at things and I'm like, there's a lot of the world that doesn't make any sense. A lot of the world.
Yeah.
And the more that we dive into science, we aren't learning that we are understanding the world more. We're learning that we understand the world less. And less and less and less. And the more that we dive into a question, the more questions that pop up instead of the more answers. Mm-hmm. That's just the way that science works. And that's the way that discovery works. And that's the way that everything works when the question is why. Or when the question is how. There's no... Like, it always leads to a dead end, basically. And I love that we live in a world where it's like that, because that kind of allows each individual person to come up with their own answers. Whether that is a scientific answer, a personal answer, a religious answer, a spiritual answer.
You like that? See, I don't really like that.
I love that because then, essentially, we are all living in our own worlds. We are all living in our own stories. We are all writers.
Well,
we are all
if you're looking at it from
storytellers.
If you're looking at it from an artistic point of view, sure. But if you're living in a world where we're going to make a decision based on an answer, and we ask a question and you get 12 different answers, and some may be made up and some may be true and some may be false, it's like, well, how do you know what to do? Like, how do you know what decision to make if all the answers you're getting are different? You don't know which one is real.
Well, how do you know that it even matters in the first place? It doesn't.
Well, it could.
It could, but we don't know.
I'm just saying. There's a place for the artistic side of that, and I like the storytelling and blah blah blah. But if there's something I need to know, and I'm getting this bullshit answer that somebody just made up, that's bad.
Well, I think within context. I mean,
right.
We're not asking like, "Hey, where did you put that pen that I need immediately?"
See, that's what I'm saying.
And then the answer isn't, "Oh, well, the Sasquatch came down from the light in the sky, and then it crawled through my window after being summoned from." Like, no.
That's what I thought you meant.
No,
but
not
like
that. But like just looking at the world in a way where it's like, it's this, just a big mystery. It's a big fill in the blank book.
See that I can get behind. Like, even something like you were saying, like the unexplained mysteries, like that kind of thing. That can be kind of fun to hear a story and hear people talk about that. But if it's something that is like pressing and we need to know an answer right now, and based on that answer we can go forward with another decision, it's important to have the scientific facts behind that, because otherwise people could get hurt or blah blah blah. Like what if some of the questions we had about going into space, all these measurements we needed to take and all these precautions were, the answers were just, oh yeah, it'll be fine, it's okay.
Well, fun fact,
like that could have been bad.
Speaking of going into space, fun fact,
we talk about space a lot.
Yep. The U.S., the United States of America, was designing the first space shuttle to actually bring humans into space. The initial thing that was going to be filmed and shown everywhere, or at least there were going to be photographs. The original design was scrapped because Russia designed a similar space shuttle that had a window. And the U.S. was like, no, we need a window because we need to get the money shot of a photograph looking through the window back at Earth. We need that. And that frickin' window destroyed the structural integrity of the space shuttle. It made the crew members vulnerable to radiation from the sun, or the sun rays, all number of things. It was basically this disaster, and they were jeopardizing lives just so that they could make it look good, just so that it could be a better marketing thing.
That's what I'm saying. That could have gone really bad.
I think it's interesting, but we succeeded
with the window.
Yep, with the window. There's a famous photograph looking through the window. You can see Earth.
Yeah. So the window didn't cause any problems.
No, but they had to scrap everything and they had to go back to the drawing board and they had to come up with all of these.
Oh, they came up with a
ridiculous solutions.
They came up with a new version that still had the window.
Yeah.
To make it so that we could get that money shot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Russia still got to space first, but we got to the moon first.
Well, it's not a pissing contest, or it's
no, it was.
Oh, at the time.
Yeah, at the time, and it, basically still is. This is why we need to get rid of nationalism.
Anyhow,
I am a global citizen, Joseph.
Anyhow, I'm just saying that I'm glad that we made a decision that was based on science and not based on a story somebody just made up, because that people could have died. And then we wouldn't have had the money shot and blah 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 blah. We wouldn't have won the pissing contest, which is ultimately all that matters, is if we win the pissing contest.
I think that it's important to live in a world with mysteries, though, because the second that we have no more mysteries, that would be terrible. If we just have answers, then I feel like things would be less fun, because everything that has brought me joy, everything that has made me excited, everything that has made me feel accomplished, everything that has given me meaningful emotion, or just meaning in general, has had a certain layer of uncertainty throughout.
Yeah.
Like, all of my favorite adventures have been the most spontaneous.
Can you imagine if we're going on a trip somewhere and we already have knowledge of every little thing that's going to happen? It's kind of like, well, I don't want to go now.
Because you already know the story.
Or like, if you're going to see a movie and you already know everything that's going to happen in the movie, it's like, I don't really want to.
Yeah,
I'm all
and
set.
like all of my favorite movies and all of my favorite stories, I love them because they're surprising, or because they touch me in a way that I didn't ever fathom that they could, or something like that. And I actually think that a big portion of happiness and meaning in life has to come with uncertainty.
Right.
Has to come with some form of mystery or uncertainty or spontaneity.
It gives people something to work towards. I mean, think of all the jobs out there that are solely devoted to trying to find an answer to something. Like, that's a big deal. And yeah, I think like the whole morbid curiosity thing, like that's part of that too, where people just they like a good mystery, tying it back to that. And it's weird that humans have a lot of differences between one another, but I think that's something that's pretty universal, is that we all have that desire to like figure out what's going on and figure out that mystery. Humans are interesting, and cats are interesting too. And I wonder, tying it back to the, hold on, stick with me, tying it back to the whole like what animals think of you thing. I wonder if animals have that, where
I think some do.
Yeah.
I don't think cats do to the extent of a human, though.
No, not to the extent of a human, but in terms of, like, say, for example, a cat knew all that was going to happen in its life, do you think it would still enjoy life? I think it probably still would, because cats really like eating, and they like pets. But, like, that's the difference there. But then I think there are some animals that maybe would not enjoy life as much if they knew all of the answers.
Well, another thing that I heard on the Curiosity podcast that I was listening to, random fun fact, octopuses, octopi have, I think it was 8 brains, or like 7 brains or something like that. They have multiple brains. They have
Why?
3 hearts.
Why?
And they have a lot of brains, and they're very smart. And when you have an octopus, it was either an octopus or a squid. Anyways, so when you have one at a zoo or at an aquarium or whatever, they have to keep them occupied because they're highly intelligent. They need to be stimulated. So they have these puzzles and stuff that they put into the thing. But they have to have multiple puzzles with various solutions. Otherwise, they'll get bored.
Interesting. So to answer my question, yes.
Yeah.
Like,
so at least for an octopus,
right.
If they have the same puzzle in their exhibit or whatever in their thing for too long, then they'll like go over to it and they'll be kind of depressed and they'll like touch it and then they'll be like, I already know the answer to this one, and they'll swim away and then they'll just sit there and they just aren't happy because they aren't stimulated.
I'd like to think that all living things have a degree of that. It may not be to the extent of, what is our purpose on Earth? Like, that's kind of a big question. But even, like, there's a rock, and I think there's something under the rock. What, like, something as simple as that. I'd like to think that all living things share that, because that makes me a little bit more comfortable. It makes me feel like there's a little bit of unity in all the living things we have on our planet, and that makes me feel better. Because a lot of times, I feel like humans think they're superior to all living things, and I guess I understand why they think that, but I'm someone who doesn't think that, and it's kind of weird. I was talking to my mom about this, actually, and she said something to the effect of, like, God put animals on the earth to serve us, and I said, that's weird that you think that.
Well, God put us on the earth to serve him.
Well, all right, but I'm just saying, I think that I don't think there's any reason to believe that humans are superior to animals, at least in terms of worth, because yes, we maybe can do other things that they can't do, but there are some animals that can do things that we can't do. So, like, why is what we do more valuable than what they do? So when people, like, talk about animals like they're not living things or whatever, like they're not important, it kind of makes me sad, because I feel like, we think we're these complex things, and maybe we are, but they probably have this weird thing that we don't even know what that is, and we can't even fathom what that is. So, hold your horses before saying that.
There was this game that I played, I think it was called The Swapper.
Oh, I remember that one.
Have you ever played it?
Yeah, it's the guy, he kind of looks like the guy from Dead Space.
Yeah, sort of.
It's like a side-scroller.
Astronaut.
Yeah, and then you, like...
This gun, he can, like...
You can teleport, kind of?
Yeah, he creates clones of himself.
Oh, it's not teleporting, but it's
he
like...
can shift his consciousness into that clone.
Yeah.
But that entire game deals with that same kind of idea. This idea of consciousness and whether or not it can be, like, applicable for other beings or other things. Even something as small as a rock, does that have any form of consciousness?
Right.
And this idea of whether or not we should value consciousness, whether or not we should value life, if we should value life if there isn't consciousness in it. So, like, the idea of a bug. If a bug isn't conscious, then should we even care about its well-being?
Right.
Things like that. Really interesting game. I think you should play through it.
I think I have it.
It was free at some point.
Yeah, it was free on something. Yeah,
but it's definitely a mind trip. Like, it's pretty cool.
Well, I really like that idea, and especially after my mom said that, I'm like, a lot of people probably think that humans are just the top of the top tier living thing. And again, I understand why they say that, but, like, when I see somebody, like, posting a picture on Facebook of them, like, holding up a dead deer or whatever, like, I just think that's, I don't know. I get my morals maybe might be different than a lot of people's morals, but that's one thing that I think is like I'm really passionate about. Like I think all living things should be valued equally, whether it's a bug, whether it's a bear, whether it's another human.
See, I personally I don't have a problem with killing things because it happens. Like I step on bugs all the time on accident. Or you know, just driving a car. That's a moving murder machine. And every now and then, almost everybody who's driven a car has hit a deer or killed a bird.
Right. I mean,
but
I don't intentionally kill things.
There's something that makes me uncomfortable when somebody goes out of their way.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Something.
Like in terms of like eating food and all that, I understand that you have to eat other things, and that's just nature. I get that. But like purposely killing something else just because you don't like it, or like stepping on a bug even. I know some people, oh, can you kill that bug for me? I'm always like, no.
I have a spider in my room, and
What's his name? Julio or something?
My brother came up with the name. Why can't I remember his name? I haven't seen him in a while.
And you know, a lot of times, the bug was here first.
Yeah.
So why do... the bug should be stomping on you. If anybody... I mean, you invaded its pride. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, but I told my roommates not to hurt him. I haven't seen him around though.
He's not hurting anybody.
Yeah, hasn't hurt me.
It's fine.
Yeah.
And like I know some animals can like chew up your wiring in your house, and that's kind of bad. So
you can like relocate them.
Yeah, sure.
Or relocate yourself.
I'm just saying, if you can avoid killing other things, you should, because I just have a moral problem with that.
Mm-hmm. Another thing that talks about consciousness and the value of life is Nier Automata.
I know.
You gotta finish it.
I know.
You have not, like, you basically just like scrape the surface and you're just getting into.
It's a good surface.
Well, it gets better.
But back to the whole we're busy thing. I have very limited time. Yeah. When we're done with this podcast, you know what I'm gonna go do? I'm gonna go home and edit a picture for the Facebook page. So. And then after that, I gotta work on something else. So, like, my time is... I don't have a whole lot of time right now. And at some point, I promise you I'd play Edith Finch. At some point, I promise I will finish through... get through the rest of Nier, however many playthroughs that is. Hold your horses.
I don't have any horses to hold.
I don't like horses. You should murder all horses. I'm kidding.
All right. Well, so this one has gone a little bit longer, but I guess that concludes episode 7 of the More Than Friends podcast. This is episode 7, right?
Yes.
Wow.
7 weeks. I don't actually think you should murder horses. I do also think, just real fast, I know we're trying to wrap it up. You know how, like, some people eat, like, whatever, they eat fish, and they eat chicken, and they eat pig, but they don't eat horse.
Some places eat horses.
I know, but I'm saying, like, in America, we don't eat horse, and we don't eat dog, and we don't eat cat, but we do eat, whatever. Like, they're like, how do we pick which things to eat versus not? And pigs are pretty disgusting, so if you eat pig, you should probably eat everything. And, like, we don't eat bugs, but some countries eat bugs. It's just weird.
It's all cultural norms.
Yeah, I think we should just eat whatever we want. It's fine. I would try horse, is what I'm trying to say.
I would try human.
Jesus. All right. It's getting bad.
Seriously.
Oh, no.
All right. We're breaking shit. Okay. All right.
Yeah, it's fine. What was it? Hour and 13? Hour 12? That's fine.
It's like an hour and 8 minutes, I think, after editing. Probably. I don't know.
Thank you, everybody, for sticking with us here through this weird conversation. We always seem to get real weird. We get real psychological, and then we get, like, social. We start talking about weird things. It's just...
Yeah. This one got deep. I like this one a lot.
Yeah.
And new favorite episode.
And I don't think we've offended anybody. I hope not.
Oh, no. We talked about death. That's pretty uncomfortable.
You said you would eat human.
I don't think that bothers people.
Dead human. You wouldn't, like, eat an alive human.
I never specified.
Oh, you would eat an alive human. So you're a zombie.
No, a zombie is a dead human eating a live human.
So you're... What do we call an alive human eating another alive human?
Sociopath.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
Anyway, that has been episode 7. God, I can't believe we've been doing this 7 weeks. We haven't missed a week.
I'm proud of us.
Episode 7 of the More Than Friends podcast. Stay tuned for some more show updates. Like the Facebook page, share the NES Classic post so you can possibly win an NES Classic. They're really hard to find, and it's free, so you should do that. What else? Check us out at all the shows we're going to be doing. Look into the new inventory we've got. See us at PSX if you're gonna be there, and
all kinds of things.
If you're gonna be watching the VGAs, look out in the crowd where you'll probably see a shot of Steven and I crying, or me and Steven crying. So look out for that. And as always, please treat each other as more than friends.
Yes.
Do you agree?
Yes, I agree.
Did I do a good job of wrapping all? You have nothing to add?
That was just a lot. That's a lot of things.
Well, we've been busy.
We have been busy.
All right, I got shit to do.
Yeah. See you all later. Love you.
Was that a good episode?
I think so. I think it's my favorite.
That's your favorite episode?
Yeah, because the stuff we talked about was really interesting.
This is me warming up. You know, some people have a really hard time rolling their R's. Like, some people either got it or they don't. Because, like, I tried, no, hold on, listen. I tried teaching, I think it was my ex, how to roll her R's. And since like an hour I went into this. I was like, okay, put your tongue right here. And then you gotta just, like, I don't know what that word is. It's like a word, it's like, yeah, it's like trying to invent a word.
It's like purring. Purring.
Purring. But you know how there's that whole thing of like...
hold on. I really like... That sounds like a clean engine. Or maybe it's a little dirty. Like a... Hold on. I fucked up.
But like, you know how there's that whole thing of like... there are some words in other languages that we just don't have here. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like that. Like... I don't know what the word is. Like, you gotta vibrate your tongue? I don't know.
It's just like breathing in a way where the tongue...
I spent an hour working with her, and at the end of it, she was just like, I'm never gonna learn how to do this.